Next to a CBS Colorado exclusive, cracking the case with artificial intelligence. Earlier this month, your investigator Brian Moss broke the story on a $12 million jewelry heist in Cherry Creek Shopping Center.
Now the FBI is telling Brian how they caught one suspect using groundbreaking technology and how that suspect could be linked to more crimes. Brian Moss is your investigator.
The burglary of the jewelry store in the Cherry Creek Shopping Center was a cut above typical crimes.
This was a particularly brazen and sophisticated crime when you look at the totality of it.
Law enforcement accusing 33-year-old Chilean citizen Gustavo Salas Ortega and 3 others of dressing as construction workers, coming into the mall wearing hard hats and reflective vests.
Using acetylene torches and drills to be able to break into vaults and safes to be able to get expensive watches and jewelry.
Investigators say Salas Ortega in the U.S. illegally and his cohorts, seen in this surveillance picture from the shopping center, were inside the store all night for 8 hours before making off with that $12 million stash. But within just a matter of weeks, an FBI task force was onto the suspects, thanks in large part to artificial intelligence. Investigators obtained these pictures of the men driving a Ford F-150, but license plates were removed to avoid detection. Turns out these license plate reading cameras in Colorado don't need an actual plate to track a car.
It's essentially a machine learning technology.
Holly Balin is with Flock Cameras, the company that installed the cameras that were key to tracking the suspect's truck. Investigators had the truck description and fed those details into the Flock system.
So the category might be color. It might be make, type. Does the vehicle have a roof rack?
The system found an image of this truck headed into Denver on I-70 the day before the heist. Police wrote the images from the roadside camera precisely matched the truck from the Hyde Park heist, down to the wheels, running board, and location of the Ford emblems.
The algorithm is constantly sort of learning, but it's very accurate.
Investigators then searched cell tower records of cell phones that were at the jewelry store at the same time. They found a phone linked to Salas Ortega, who was at Hyde Park during the burglary. And that same phone appeared to be linked to the travels of the suspect's pickup truck.
We were able to pull that thread and put the pieces together to make a prosecutable case.
We knew what that location was.
It's familiar territory for crime analyst Chris Gray with the Denver District Attorney's Office.
I think about 70 to 80% of all criminal investigations have some sort of digital component available to them.
And while he did not work on the Hyde Park case, he says the techniques used are familiar.
That investigation really was letting the data kind of drive the investigation and assist the investigators in creating those identifications.
The suspect may not have known how helpful his cell phone was to police, who were able to reconstruct his every move.
So can you go back and track where I was just based on my phone being on?
With the search warrant, yes.
And another digital footprint. Photos of Salas Ortega using ATM machines. They show him wearing what the FBI says was a stolen watch. When Salas Ortega was arrested out of state, those investigators seized his actual phone, and they extracted critical information, including searches for jewelry stores in Denver, even finding pictures of some of the loot stolen from Hyde Park.
There's no perfect crime.
McCulloch says everyone takes selfies, but there's nothing better than criminals who take pictures linking them to crimes.
You encourage the criminals to do dumb things?
Yes, please do.
I'm Brian Moss, covering Colorado First.
Thanks, Brian. Crime analysts say this process is kind of similar to baking a cake. You start with many different ingredients or pieces of data, but when you combine them all and bake it at 350 degrees, you end up with a cake, or in this case, a suspect and a roadmap to how a massive jewelry heist may have gone down.